the time has come to do a project I have been putting off for quite a while, which is learning how to do apportioning scales. So we're going to start with an easy project. We are going to do the corset cover, which I need to make anyway. I'm going to be using Bushel Fashions 1885 through 1887 because it has some nice information on corset covers, and of course it has the apportioning scales somewhere in the back here, just to give you a quick idea of that. So if you haven't yet seen my video on my favorite 19th century sewing reference books, you should definitely go check that out. I talk about this book and a lot of other books that I highly recommend, basically that span through most of the 19th century and then kind of creep a little bit into Edwardian times. But yes, this is by far my favorite book, and what's nice, like I said, is they have all the apportioning scales in the back of the book for you to print out and put on cardboard, which I have already done. And I'll get more into this when we're going over the details of it. So for this project, since it's just a bodice or corset cover, the main thing we're going to be drafting off our whole pattern off of is our bust measurement, so I've done that. I've got it put on cardboard. The other one you're going to need, they have in the book too, is called scale, which is this curvy one, and it shows you how to use it, and basically that's going to help us make our curves for our collars, armholes, all that jazz. So those are the only two that I need. I also will be using my usual ruler, my straight edge ruler, to help me make my lines. And of course, this is kind of what I was waiting on too before I could really get started into this project, was my grid pattern paper. So this pattern paper is mildly see-through, but what's really important is it has a 1 by 1 inch grid put onto the paper. You don't have to do this, but I think it's going to save me a lot of hassle, and it wasn't super expensive. I will link in the description where I got it from. Whew. So I'm going to go over the exact instructions roughly that are in the book and show you how to do those instructions, because it is a little confusing just reading. So hopefully with this video, my goal is to, well, learn apportioning skills myself, also maybe help you guys learn how to do apportioning skills. So yeah, before I jump into the project, I'd just like to say, please do subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell. That way you can join me in the future on fun, new, exciting, crazy, scary sewing adventures. Alright guys, so let's just jump in and make ourselves a pattern. Alright everyone, so we first must examine our book to really get a grip on what we're doing. And very early on they talk about apportioning scales in this section right here. They also show what the original tools look like. Now obviously they've given me this scroll, I think they call it. These are all the different bust sizes, well, you know, sizing like 36, 20, whatever. And you're gonna pick whichever one is your bust size. And this is important. For bodices, we go off bust. For skirts, they go off waist. So for me, I am a 36 bust, so I'm going to use my 36 measurement tool. Now this one is not one that they give us. Basically, I'm going to use my straight edge to accomplish what they would use this for. So yes, and I'm sure you recognize this little tool here, and that's supposed to be the floppy measure tape. So just to kind of go over it really quickly, Using apportioning scales. Using the National Garment Cutter scales to draft the patterns in bustle fashions is quite easy. Yeah, we'll see. It is a matter of enlarging them to your size rather than designing styles from scratch. Okay. First, take your measures over the foundation, garments, and undergarments you will wear. We kind of discussed this already. So since I am doing a corset cover, I'm going to, well, I wore my chemise and corset, and that was it. So if we were doing a full ensemble, I'd have to have all my undergarments on, you know, chemise, corset cover. If it was a winter outfit, my undervest, and of course my drawers. So blah blah blah. Of course, choose the correct scales for your measurements. We just talked about this. So now we're down to drafting the pattern. After choosing your scales, lay out a large piece of pattern paper printed with marks at 1 inch intervals. We also talked about that already as well. Oh boy, so from these, draw horizontal lines to measures shown. And then you draw the curves. Okay, this is super hard to understand without showing you guys. Took me like 5 times reading through it and kind of looking to really understand what you're talking about. So we'll get more into that later. And they also talk about you might have to add a bit more in to the pattern for seam allowances, because sometimes theirs were quite small compared to what we're used to with modern seam allowances. But this is why we make a mock-up, everybody, right? So most of this can be skipped over because we've talked about it. Taking your measurements, obviously that's how they show making your bust measurements, waist measurement. And it's funny, like they don't call it the nape of the neck in the book, but that's what it is. It's basically where your neck connects to your body, which is how they try to describe it. But yeah, so you're gonna take the nape of your neck to where your waistline is. And if you were doing sleeves, you know, the middle of the back to the sleeve length, blah, blah, blah. So this is the important part. This is what our grid paper needs to look like. This is that 30, for me, my 36 bust piece, and I'm gonna measure down to 10, mark next so I know where to do it, and go down to 20 or however long I need to make the piece. So yeah, and then I'm gonna have to draw 2 straight lines. To my understanding, obviously this one is the top one, so that's not gonna change, but the distance from these 2 should be the distance from my like from where my waist, like this should be my waist, and then starting at the one, they specifically say what it is. So it is from 1.5 down for this pattern, and then I have to measure to where my waist is. I hope that's understandable. Each pattern is different. Like the pattern they're gonna do is actually 1/4. But like I said, I'm going to get to that in a minute, understanding all of this. Because the way they talk about it, you would think it was this for every pattern, and it's not. So, but this is what we're going to look like. So, okay, we've kind of gone over what the book has said. There are definitely a lot more instructions. If you own the book, I highly recommend that you read through them, and then you can watch this video to better understand them too, of course. So okay, let's grab our grid paper and get started. All right, here's what the book has. Here's what we've got. So you're probably thinking, wait, there's 2 lines. So just in case, this is my waist one, and this is the one like they have in the book at the 10. Just in case that's not what that means. So now what I'm going to do is, like I said, we are starting with the back piece, which is what they suggest. I don't know if that's just because we're supposed to get used to it or what. So to talk a little bit about this book and all of the books in these series, what they do is they usually, this one specifically gets most of their patterns from the National Garment Cutter that kind of came out in the late 1880s. And you're probably thinking, but this is an undervest, not a chemise. I know. So here's how this book works. They give you this pattern, and then they kind of afterwards will show you other things you can make, in this case corset covers, using the same basic pattern as the other one with just slight alterations. And in this case, the main one is, obviously I don't want it that long. So I will be altering this pattern just to make it less long, because this is kind of the one I want to go for right here with the curved neckline. And you can see it's nowhere near as long, but it is a very similar premise to this pattern, and that's pretty much how this book works, just to let you guys know. So yeah, I'm gonna start on patterning this, so let me put the camera in a better position and we'll talk about how to do that. Okay, so here's what it says. Measure all of the numbers on the baseline as given on the diagram. Now they go on and tell you about the numbers that are on the pattern they want you to use, but to specifically make it for this pattern, what I've got to do is, if you can see these numbers here, so like our first one is 1/1/2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that on my baseline using this, and I'm going to mark every single one of these numbers along the baseline and the cross line. So I'm going to mark 1/1/2, 2/1/4, 5.5, 7/3/4, 15, 20, 28.5. Although I don't want it to be 28.5. I don't have to go that far down. So I'm actually probably just going to go to 20. And then I will want to do the same thing here, the 2 and the 6.5. Because, okay, so the numbers on the left side are not going down, they're going across. So I need 2, 6.5, 8 1/8, 7 1/4, 8 3/4. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark all these numbers. We're not doing the actual pattern yet, we're just marking our numbers. So let's go and do that. Alright, so I've marked all of my pinpoints. Now what I'm going to do is draw horizontal line. Sorry. Don't forget to mark your dart sections. I haven't done that yet, so I'll go and do that in a minute. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to basically draw these dotted lines just across. This is going to help me to draft and know where my points, my essential points in my pattern must meet. To help you, this is why grid paper is so great. We can follow the grids down with our ruler and kind of just put dots in it first, and this at these key points, and this will help us to create our shape. So I'm going to go put in my markings real quick for my darts, and then I'm going to do the horizontal lines. Okay, so I've gone ahead, I've done all my horizontal lines crossed, marked the little important parts with X's. Now, if you wanted to, you certainly could do like a vertical lines down. I just didn't want to do that because I trusted enough with my grid paper to be able to keep a fairly straight line going down so I could figure out where everything is. Also did realize what marking the number 10 section was for. That's so you can put all those numbers at the 10 line, so when you get to the lower sections, it's easier to figure out where your numbers are. Okay, so lesson learned. Now I'm going to put up the camera and I guess we're going to start actually making the lines to define what the pattern is. Okay, so before I can start drawing everything, two more notes to hit on is, which right here is that under, they refer to it in the book as the underarm dart. I don't know why they say it's dart, but basically, before you start drafting the pattern, make sure that it looks like it's going to be fitting your waist, because sometimes modern sizing isn't similar to back then. And we're talking about like your corseted waist if you're going to wear a corset. So I just measured pretty much from my 2 star points, and like it should be a little over 1/4 of what your waist measurement is, roughly. I got lucky, it looks like it's correct. If you did not, they do go into details on how to upsize it. Basically, you just slowly add on, where does it say correcting the waist size? Basically you just slowly add on until it does fit. The only time they say you can't do this is if it's like needs 3 inches, and then you have to get into much more complex stuff, which I'm just not going to get into. So yeah, the first line they want you to draw in is your shoulder seam. And from there we can start doing all of our curves following the other section that shows us how to do our tool. So it's going to be a lot of flipping back and forth between the book pages to figure out. So that's basically though what I'm going to be doing in case it looks like a chaotic mess in the next few seconds. So yeah, oh boy, here we go. All right, and this is the pattern for my back piece I've come up with. So I do want to hit on something I just learned, which is when they had like the recommended uses for this, it didn't really apply to like half of this pattern, because the piece they used was for like if you have a back that's in 2 pieces. So I think it's just, and this is what I had to do, I basically just had to do the parts I thought best fit which makes me kind of feel like, do I really want to use this in the future when I have other curved tools that are made better than me putting something on cardboard? So I just had to basically refer to my pattern I was using to get the general look I was going for, and I think I've gotten it pretty good. As I said, I've shortened it, though I think I will make one more adjustment, which is my dart. I have it going down too far. I'm going to actually bring it, just cut it up a little bit, that way it's not all the way to the bottom of the corset cover. So I'm going to edit that, define my lines a little better, maybe cut it out, and then I'll get back to you guys and show you how it looks cut out and everything. Okay. But I did want to talk, I'm doing the front piece, which I'll show you real quick. And as you can see, it's got a huge curved line. And basically, it does have all of the points that are very important for this curved line to follow. Also, you can see I've brought out all my modern curved tools because I think they'll be more accurate. But I think a really good way of doing this is, see, I've put all these important points, and I want you to just connect the dots. I was thinking about this and I was like, yeah, that's a really good way of putting these big curved sections, is put your dots where everything's supposed to meet and just connect them. Connect the dots.
So this is what my back and front piece ended up looking like. Of course, you've already seen the back piece. This is just more to show you the front piece. And the first step is to make our darts. And I'm just going to go over that really, really quick. I start in the middle with these darts that don't have an end. And I'm just going to mark the center, and then I'm going to mark 2 spots on the bottom and the top of the point. The first spot is what you're going to aim for, and then the second spot you're going to basically follow it up in a straight line to keep your dart from pinching. And I'm not going to go too much into darts. There is a lady who does an amazing YouTube video on YouTube on how to appropriately do darts, and I'm going to link that in the description for you guys because it's very helpful.
Alright everyone, we've done all of our precision ironing, and it is now time to refer back to the book. I have done a rough look at it to see if it looks like it's going to fit. It does, and it looks a little big right now, but we have to remember that all our side seams will be French seamed, so having a little bit of give is good because we're going to have to do that, and especially because it's not underlined. The only thing is, we've had to use the undervest pattern to make our corset cover, which of course brings up the problem of it obviously being too long, and I did think I cut off enough, but I can tell I have not. So I will have to alter it definitely that way to make sure it's shorter, because at this point it's still looking quite long. And I will go over kind of how I edit that to fit the corset cover look. Okay, so yeah, now I'm just going to go over kind of the instructions in the book to get the corset cover look, which the next instruction should be to sew up our shoulder and side seams. Okay guys, so we've gone ahead and we've done the French seams on the back, the sides, and where the shoulders are. And it's on the mannequin right now, so I can see what it's gonna kind of look like on me. Now keep in mind, I am gonna lose like quite a bit more in the front, so it looks like it's about the right size, because we got to do the area for the buttons and the buttonholes. This though is the time I am going to do some modifications to the original pattern, because so the back isn't too bad for length, but as you can see, I forgot to match the front to it. I think I just forgot. So I'm gonna obviously cut off some of my bottom for the front to match the back. And I don't like the neckline. The neckline is more suited for an undervest, which, as I said earlier, is what we based our pattern off of. Well, is what the pattern is made to make. I want more of a swooping neckline, so I'm also going to do that and cut into it. So yes. All right, everyone, so it's now time for dressings, and I'm just going to talk about what the book suggests for the squared neckline, which is they suggest that we use some sort of embroidery thread, and the only one I have right now is like a light blue. I think it'll work. And I'm also going to do lace edging. I have blue lace that matches pretty well, and that'll be sewn on the inside, and then we'll top it with this. And I'm also going to do the lace edging along the armholes. Other than that, I've already gone ahead and, you know, turned over where my buttons and buttonholes will be, and I've hemmed my bottom. I've done a double hem. So everything's looking really nice and tidy on the inside. So, like I said, I'm just gonna go over this real quick, and we'll be basically finished. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew all the trims on, and then we'll do buttons. All right, everyone, so we've done our buttons and buttonholes that correspond. I've got my blue trim edging, lace edging, along my sleeves and along the top here, along with some lovely embroidered ribbon, which I think has come out so well. Oh, there we go, just to get a better look at it. So, this is it. We're done. I'm just gonna go ahead and get all my undergarments on and put this on to show you guys what the final look is. Okay, everyone, so we are finished. It fits and it covers my corset.